Drive me crazy, you not lazy. Eh? Emilio Touche. Till I hear you screaming. Come on, baby, yeah. Eh? Oh, Mr. Lover. Dida, nothing like later, eh? Na money. Okay. All right, baby. Shine your eyes wet, no money, no leaky. Shine your eyes wet, no money, no leaky. Oh my sister, shine your eyes wet. Shine your eyes wet, no money, no leaky. Eh? Leaky. Eh? Leaky. Sila is for my hands. I hear you. The flash. Stop flashing. He say, oh my sisters, shine your eyes well. No money, no leaky. Eh? No money, no leaky. What's up, my people? Hope you all are doing wonderfully well, right? No money, no leaky. Is one of my tracks, my old tracks for that matter. And it's one of the songs in the Unapologetically a Woman album. So please go download a copy for $1. Okay, so once again I want to welcome you all to Unapologetically a Woman. So without wasting much of your time, folks, let's get started. Today, I'm going to be talking about death. Yes. Death, funeral, and grief. Within the African context. Okay? So I have tagged to this topic those three terms: death, funeral, and grief. You see, folks, many of us have lost loved ones recently. And even those who passed years ago are still very much in our memories and thoughts, to the extent it has affected most of us in various ways. There are folks who even get precarious kind of trauma from sudden deaths of their even favorite celebrities, to the extent they now think life is not worth living. With the rates loved ones are dying, people we know are dying, there's a lot of people now who just sit back and say, you know what, this life is worth nothing. It's worth nothing. It's not worth living. So why do people have to suffer, try to make ends meet, and all of a sudden the person is gone? So, well, my people, life is still for the living, and death is inevitable. Okay? So as we all know, death is the act of dying, the end of life, and the permanent ending of an organism. Okay? So death is a phenomenon that is dreaded, unfortunately, by everyone. Yes. Regardless of who you are or where you come from, people are very much afraid, of talking about death. As a matter of fact, it is a taboo to talk about death as an African person. Especially when you're still young, vibrant, and healthy. Okay? However, my people, whether we like it or not, death is something that is inevitable, like I said. And whether you are rich or poor, male or female, short or tall, regardless of your position or status, as a person, you will one day experience death. Yes, sadly, we all one day experience death. The only thing is, we all pray to live long, to old age, for us to age gracefully and die of natural causes. We all pray not to experience premature death or sudden death. But folks, death is for sure. Death is certain. Regardless of how it comes, it is certain. It is a part of the human phenomenon, right? So knowing that death is certain, we need to change the mentality of denial and pretense to start talking about it and putting the right mechanisms in place so that when it happens, we do not put our families or children and loved ones into unnecessary debt, hardship, or unexpected sufferings. Okay? To make things worse, extended family members who were not there who were never there for anything during your lifetime will show up at your death to take center stage and then give orders on how you should be buried, and then tax your children exorbitant amounts of money for the burial in a way that will benefit them. Okay? So the idea of getting old these days and not planning or saving for old age or making plans for deaths and for your funeral when it happens, especially when we all know it will surely come to that day, is an act of denial. Is an act of denying the obvious, sadly. So when you don't make plans because you are scared of talking about death, when you know that it will surely happen one day, it's just an act of living in denial. We are denying the obvious. Huh? So some people will post, for example, oh, enjoy life, for life is too short, on social media platforms, right? And then they have enough money to enjoy life to the fullest. But, and yet, when death comes, people need to donate for their burial, which is sad. So it is time to plan when you get to certain age. So it is wise for us to start planning when we get to certain age and stop this superstitious belief associated with death. And then we plan for old age, because unfortunately, death is a price every human being must pay. So, folks, knowing that death is a part of life reminds us that one day it will also be our turn. Because it is inevitable. It will one day be our turn because death is inevitable. So understanding this phenomenon will help to shape how we live our lives or how we treat others. So for those of you who think you are not going to die one day and therefore acting as God, please take note, my dear. Take good notes, because you will die and you will be buried 6 feet below and be eaten up with every beast you fear. Okay? So it is time for us to start changing our ways and do all the good that we can, show all the kindness that we can to human beings. Okay? Also, as a people, we should try to celebrate our loved ones when they are alive and not when they are gone. Folks will start throwing lavish, parties, and then throwing money around to celebrate them. When alive, these same people slept on mats on the floor, and most of them starved most of their lifetime. And behold, at their death, you are now buying a coffin worth millions of nairas. And then family members who could not and has never attended a family reunion for betterment will suddenly show up to start giving orders on what and what should be done. The most annoying of it all is when family members tax the diseased children for huge money and unaffordable items for burial when they know fully well that their brother or uncle was a deadbeat dad when he was alive. He did not take care of his children or spend a dime on his children's education. Or their family members know quite well that their sister, auntie, was not there for the children. But yet, when they pass on, you want to tax the children unnecessarily for your sister or your brother who was never there for the children when they needed their parents most. Why is it so? So, my dears, as a woman, we need to talk about death too with our partners. Yes, we need to plan and write wills accordingly to protect our children and partners from unnecessary fight and court battles for properties when you are gone. And especially if you have girl children, you know what the culture says. Girl children does not inherit properties. So you need to write a will accordingly to avoid problems when you are gone. I do understand because of the taboo associated, associated with death, people are not comfortable to talk about wills and all that, right? So I understand it's an uncomfortable situation to talk to your partner, especially husbands, about death and wills to avoid trouble or suspicion of you planning to kill them, because people take such things in different ways. Some men may even call their family on you for saying or suggesting to them to write a will or arrange for their death in case it happens. So sometimes it is difficult for women to have this kind of conversations with their partner. But nevertheless, women who suffered with their husbands, with their hobbies from start, to build a life and work together, usually have no fear to suggest such with their partners. Oh yes, it's just a part of security measures and assurance that your sweat and hard work does not fall or go into wrong hands when you pass, when you are gone, especially in our culture where families can easily come and seize everything and anything from your wife and children and even from your husband when you leave them. And then they will leave your family to their fate, to sufferings. So my people, excuse me. Yeah, so as I was saying, now that we understand the basics of death, let's talk briefly about burials and how people are buried in Nigeria, for example. Okay, I have a kind of curiosity about, like, why are burials always very expensive? You know, burials are supposed to be a time, to cry, to miss someone, but unfortunately I've noticed that it is kind of a celebration. People want to spend lavishly on burial ceremonies, which I find, I just wonder if it's super necessary to have a big and elaborate burial for the dead, to the extent folks are going to ask for bank loans and borrow money from family members and friends just to bury someone. I think it's unfounded, because that money can be used for something more pressing and something more urgent, or to better people's lives. So burials usually in Nigeria is expensive. People are taxed to bring money. Even when they don't have, they go borrowing, they go looking for loans. And when the bank refuses them loan, they go begging, getting private loans from friends, from people they know, acquaintances and all that. So I don't think people should go through such stress just to bury their dead or bury their loved ones, okay? And then another thing, because talking about death is seen as a taboo, no one is talking about the states of cemeteries in Nigeria. Yes, the cemeteries are all abandoned. They are all in shambles. Excuse me. The cemeteries have turned into forests with dead bodies put on top of each other every damn day. There's no proper security. And it is allegedly said and believed that people go to the cemeteries to buy human body parts and clothing or human items for ritualistic purposes. There's just no standards, like really standard state cemetery where people can conveniently lay their loved ones to rest and then go to put flowers when they feel like, or on anniversary days or dates. There's no such cemeteries, where people can conveniently bury their loved ones without being afraid that the dead body we can even go missing. There's no security. So instead, because of the lack of standard and I don't want to use good for a cemetery, because of the for them to have a standard or a well constructed a cemetery, because of the lack of it, so folks are now building houses with the intention of having a burial place for themselves when they die. Yes. For example, nearly all the houses in Benin City is a burial ground with dead bodies buried in every corner of the house or landed property. Some inherited houses and buildings are just a total cemetery with grand and great-great-grandfathers and mothers buried on them. Even aunties, cousins, they are buried there. Generations of ancestors lay to rest in these houses. And then we all complain and wonder how dirty and underdeveloped most of the houses in the cities look. Especially the ones in major streets, in major roads that is being inherited by four sons who have no financial power to renovate or facelift or rebuild these places. And the worst of all, they cannot sell to those who can change or beautify these houses because it is a semi-cemetery. Their loved ones are buried there. So now, because of these circumstances, what we now see is unattended old buildings falling and ripping apart in major parts of the city that is supposed to be well modernized. I do not understand why this is so. Why people have to bury their loved ones in houses. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or how. Anyways, I just think people should be buried with dignity in a well-constructed and managed cemetery and not in private houses like we have in some parts of the country. No. Excuse me. Okay? So it does not allow people to renovate houses because maybe sometimes you want to bring this place down, you want to do something else in the other place, and there's a dead body laying there. So what are you going to do? Dig out the skeleton? So I think it is something people should do. Even if the government is not providing a standard cemetery for folks, people should go into that business and open something, something modern, something protected, something, of standard where people can, bury their loved ones in peace, with dignity and respect, right? And not being afraid that they will come back the next day, their loved one's dead body has disappeared, So also, burial ceremonies should not be a time of punishment or suspicion, attacks against people, against each other, but instead a time to respect the deceased, lay the deceased to rest, and then family togetherness to grieve and support each other in difficult times. Losing a loved one and going through the process of burial and bereavement is hard, especially after laying the person to rest. You now come to the realization that this person is no more, and that no amount of cry or tears you shared will bring this person back. So that's when, after the burial, after the death, the burial, and all those ceremonies, that's when the grieving process starts. Now burial is over, and everyone is gone back to their various lives, to their various houses. You are left all by yourself to face the reality of your loss. Recovering from a loss is not an easy task, as people are affected by loss in different ways. Sometimes tragedy can be severe or prolonged or even unexpected, that we are left devastated when it happens. We feel deeply shaken, damaged, or in shock. So healing from loss has no time frame, as everyone's path is different and people feel and assimilate pains differently. So even people from the same family feel loss differently, as it also depends on our unique relationship with the person or our attachment with the person that died. However, Recovering from a loss or showing signs that you are feeling better early is somehow frowned at and considered as suspicious of something, or you don't care or like the person who passed. So, you recovering from a loss so soon in some cultures, especially in Africa, is considered suspicious. It's unacceptable. So it's a cost for people to think you don't care about the person that passed. You don't care about the dead. How come you just recovered so easily, especially for widows, mothers losing children, children losing parents, or very close relations who dies. In Nigeria, you need to be seen literally looking very haggard, attracting self-pity, and almost looking like you are dying any minute for people to believe that you are feeling really bad and grieving the passing of your loved one, or else you are seen as not caring and moving on too fast for people's liking. The situation is even worse if it's a woman who lost her husband, for example. She cannot in any way be seen with a makeup or looking well dressed for a very long time, even for years. She cannot be seen going out or attending social gatherings, social events, or else she is termed a useless woman. She can be termed a husband killer and witch who do not feel her husband's passing. And then after some years, she cannot be seen dating another man, or else hell will be let loose. And some cultures, they might even stone her to death. But whereas if it's a man who had the same experience, who lost his wife, he can start dating after 3 months if he likes, or even the next day. Even the next day after losing his wife, he may even invite his girlfriend to come to his wife's funeral, and nobody will say anything about it because it's a man. So it is sad that gender also plays a part on the way we grieve as human beings in Africa. So my people, I want us to understand that grief is an individualized thing that differs from person to person. Yes, it differs. Rubbing yourself in mud and not taking shower for weeks does not mean you are more affected. It doesn't mean you not taking shower, looking so haggard, dirty, looking sad, does not mean you are more affected than people who just grieved quietly. There's just no right way to grieve or to mourn, and crying all day will not take the pain away. You can't cry all your loss in one day or at once. It is sometimes, a lifetime pain as you remember that person on special occasions such as birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, graduation, or family gathering. You will always remember your loved one who passed. So it's not something you will cry for just once. It does not end once. So grieving can be like a very deep cut to some people, and it heals itself in its own time and not when you want it to heal. And it is good to be cognizant that sometimes, even if you are not being judged by people, you sometimes personally feel a sense of guilt for feeling happy after losing your loved one. You know, you have feelings of emptiness, despair, confusion, anger, and even feel shame after you lost your loved one. So grief can cause trauma, people. Grief can cause mental health challenges and lead to emotional meltdown, such as profound sadness and even spiritual blame, of blaming and being angry with God for letting things happen, for letting your loved one die. It can drive you into seclusion. So please, therefore, when we judge people on their reaction towards the death of a loved one, we need to remember that there is no right way to grieve. Just let people grieve the best way they can. All you need is to support them, because the problem is when people don't grieve at all, when they internalize their pains and they don't release it towards healing. So folks, instead of being so judgmental, we can offer help and empathize with people who are grieving in one way or the other by listening. When we listen, we give people the opportunity to let their feelings out. We need to be sensitive to their wishes for privacy too, to mourn, and let them know you are available when they need you. Again, letting people who are grieving to do regular stuff can also help the grief process. Let people use their personal coping mechanism to heal. Africa, let people use their personal coping mechanism to heal. If it is going to the cinema, if it is going to the cinema to watch a movie with friends that will make them heal on time, that will help them, or doing outdoors activities, having events, going to social gatherings, and just beginning to live life, start work immediately, and just do normal things that you usually do even before you lost your loved ones. If these are things that will make people like get themselves and help them through the grieving process, so be it. So be it. Sometimes too, it is calming to know that even if you lost your loved one, even if your loved one is gone, there are still things which have not changed in your life that can still give you that calmness and peace that you can still count on. So at least that will give you some assurance that even if your loved one is gone, you still have something to fall back to. You don't have to just lose your life. And then people judging you, you are afraid to even let go. You are afraid to use the right coping mechanism that suits you, that you can use to regain yourself on time, because you don't want to be judged. You don't want to be judged. Maybe going to gym immediately, sweating it out will help you through grieving process. Maybe going to a party, going to the club to dance, just meet people, be in a noisy place will help you. But you cannot do it because people are watching and they're going to judge you. Oh, look at her husband just died. She's even having a red lipstick on her lips. She's been flirty. She's looking for another man already. So we have to let people grieve the best way that they can. And then we have to understand too that death is inevitable, is a natural phenomenon. It's something that will surely and must happen whether we like it or not, regardless of our status, who we are, where we come from. So the earlier we start talking about death, understanding what death is and planning towards it, and taking that taboo out of it and understanding that it is something that is certain, the better for us all. And the better it will be for our families too, who will not have to go through hardship and go through seeking loans and borrowing money for burials. So it is time to start planning for old age. It is time to have an open conversation about death and how we treat um, our loved ones when they pass, how we react to people going through grief and bereavement. It is time we talk about such things and have this open conversation. And it is time couples can equally sit down and talk about death, in a natural way, because it is something that will come. Even if we are young now, we all pray not to die suddenly. We all pray not to die unexpectedly, right? Prematurely, to age gracefully. But then it will come. It's something that will come. So I think we should talk about it openly, and partners, couples should be able to have that conversation without suspecting the other person of, oh, you want me to start writing my will because she's planning to kill me. Okay? So it's something we all need to talk about. It's a natural thing. But in African culture, it's a no-no, it's a taboo. But folks, like I said, let's have a conversation about it, because nobody knows when it's going to happen. But we pray God sustain our life and take us to old age. So even if somebody is going to die, we should be able to die after seeing our children, right? In good health. Yeah? And then one can go, through a natural means. Not sickness and not bedridden, right? So people, enough talk about death, funeral, and grief. So let's try to be good to ourselves. Let's, like I said before, let's show all the kindness that we can and treat people always with dignity and respect, and treat them the way they want and they like to be treated. Okay? So once again, my people, I'm just being unapologetically a woman. Always remember that this is a woman's place for changing all that is no longer acceptable. And if you are not part of the solution, you are the problem. Yes, once again, folks, I want to thank you all for your support. So, but please, kindly go to the website www.neveronmywatch.ca to register as a member for the movement. And then you can follow me on the Facebook page, Never on My Watch. Like the videos, share the videos, invite your friends. Even on Unapologetically a Woman group, invite your friends. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Unapologetically a Woman. Thank you all. Thank you so much. God bless you. And I love you all. Be good to yourself. Be kind. And be mindful the way you treat others. Okay? Have a wonderful night. Until I see you again, my people. Bye.